So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome and welcome back here at BSN Network. Today we welcome you back here at BSN Arc. This is the BSN Arc podcast here today. It is Wednesday, September 2nd. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. I know I did. Yesterday was the first day of September. Today's the 2nd, obviously. Stinks that it's the end of August because that usually means summer's coming to an end. But at least football season's starting up soon. We have 8 more days until the start of the NFL season. Should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. Hopefully you are as well. I'm going to be covering a lot of NFL stuff for the next couple of days, about next week. Obviously, the first game's coming on. All that good stuff is happening with the NFL. So that's exciting. Exciting news for the NFL. Exciting news for just sports in general, that the NFL's coming, that the NFL will be played in just about 8 days is the first game. So that's good. With all that being said, this is what I got on tap for today. Some NFL news. Joe Mixon and the Bengals have agreed to a deal. They've agreed to a 4-year, $48 million contract extension. I'm going to give you what I think in just a second. I don't think this deal's all that great. I don't think Joe Mixon's all that good. I don't think he's anything special. I don't think he's amazing to get this big deal. I will tell you it in just a couple of minutes. Then we have a little bit of a blunder yesterday in the Yankees-Rays game. After the Rays game was done, or Yankees-Rays game was done, there was a little bit of a situation going on with the Yankees and the Rays as both teams decided to kind of just fight each other and just pretty much attack each other. That is what the both teams decided to do, and the bench is cleared. There was really no fighting. There was nothing like what I kind of just said. I was just kind of just explaining what a bench brawl kind of is. They kind of emptied the benches and things got a little crazy. No fighting, nothing like that, but except emptying the benches, things got a little heated. So I'm going to talk about the Yankees in my final topic as well, but I'm going to kind of run down the whole situation, right? There's a lot of stuff that has gone on over the night with the whole Yankees-Rays situation, so I'm going to have to kind of talk about that as well, and I kind of want to tell you, do I think Chapman did intentionally, what the deal is with the New York Yankees, and what the deal is with the Tampa Bay Rays, because today's game is going to be interesting now all of a sudden, that happened. So, with all that being said, now, then our final topic will be Yankees, Mets, and Islanders, obviously, to cap it off. We always do that. So, with all that being said, this is the BSN Arc podcast, and let's get right into it. So, Joe Mixon Bengals reportedly agreed to a 4-year, $48 million contract extension. Once again, the NFL, man, this season are just handing out money, giving out money, just giving out money. And I'll tell you what, you would think that without the fans or the revenue loss, you wouldn't see this many contracts in an off season. But I'll tell you what, there's been some big contracts that are happening, and now there's might be another one that is happening very, very, very soon with Alvin Kamara on the New Orleans Saints. He's close to a deal with the New Orleans Saints. There's a possibility he semi-requested a trade. He didn't request a trade. The Saints said they're open to trading him. Now all of a sudden they're close to a deal. So I don't know what that complete situation is. If it really breaks open, I'll talk about it. I was going to talk about it today, but then when the Yankees-Rays situation kind of bursted open, I was like, I got to give my opinion on what happened with this game. So I'll talk about that eventually. The Alvin Kamara, either tomorrow or one of these days or whenever something happens, I will talk about it. But he might get his contract. So the NFL, let me just make this clear. The NFL has gave contracts out to so many different players. This offseason, they've gave it to Mahomes. Not the NFL, but teams. I feel like players this offseason, especially this season, are really, really, really giving out these contracts. They're really being like, okay, you get a big deal, 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 right? They're just handing them out. And it's kind of interesting because usually, sometimes you don't see much happen in the offseason, and sometimes you do see a lot happen. But what I'm going to tell you is that this is pretty big news for the Bengals. I'm going to tell you, I don't think this, in my opinion, everybody has their opinion, right? In my opinion, I don't think this is the right move for the Bengals. Personally, I don't think this is the right move. I think they should have took this money, this $48 million, this 4-year contract that they gave it to Mixon. I think they should have took this money and handed it over to somebody else. Meaning, okay, maybe add up maybe down the road of Burrow's amazing. You can sign him with this big money. Maybe another player is going to be just absolutely amazing, right? A defensive player going to be absolutely amazing, and you give him this money. At this right moment, I think the Bengals are kind of settling a little too quickly. I do not think this Joe Mixon deal was the way to go if I was the Cincinnati Bengals with this money. Now, I know Joe Mixon is a very liked running back around Cincinnati. I know a lot of people like him in fantasy football. I know a lot of people like Mixon. I'm one of very little people think that Mixon's not very good. I don't think Mixon's all that. I think he's a little overrated. I've seen him play before. He's nothing special. I've never thought that he would be worth this much money. I never pictured him and Budda Baker in getting this much money. I never pictured Budda Baker being the highest paid safety of all time, or pictured Joe Mixon getting one of the bigger running back contracts in the whole NFL right now. I would never picture that. Personally, I think this is a player, Joe Mixon, who's a 5 out of 6 at best, and usually he's like a 5. I think he's a 6 at best. I don't think he's all that good. I know everybody talks about the 1,000-yard seasons and all that. Well, I think 1,000-yard seasons are good and everything, but a 1,000-yard season as a running back is almost like an MLB player as an MLB player with the home runs, right? Every position has its stat, right? Everybody cares about pitchers in baseball, it's earned runs. Hitters in baseball, it's all about the home runs. NFL, it's all of the quarterbacks, it's all about the touchdowns. Running backs, it's touchdowns, and a lot of people care about, did you get a 1,000-yard season? If you don't get a 1,000-yard season, you're not considered a good running back. If you get a 950-yard season with some quality playing time, and maybe you were injured some of the season, you're considered, you only had 950,000, right? And that's another thing. Mixon's barely hitting 1,000 yards, and there's a player named Saquon Barkley. I'm not trying to compare the two, but this is a Joe Mixon player who's barely getting 1,000 yards, and there's a player, Saquon Barkley, who was injured, 6 games last season, and he still hit 1,000 yards. And he still hit way over 1,000 yards. So, there's a point where, some players have an off-season. Philip Lindsay last year had a horrible off-season. Not off-season, meaning like when you're not playing, meaning like he had an off-season in general. He did not play very well last season. He still had a 1,000-yard season. 1,000-yard seasons are easy. Every year they get easier and easier and easier to come by. They just do. It's just how football is evolving. It's just how sports are evolving. Every year they get easier. Every year it's easier to get. So same thing with the situation involving, quarterbacks and yards. Every year I feel like there's more yards that get picked up by a quarterback. There's no longer, I got a 3,000-yard season, that's a lot of yards. No, that's no longer, because you see quarterbacks almost every game throw for sometimes, 150, 200 yards. It's common now. It's common to see these big yards. So it's common now to see a 1,000-yard season out of a player. Now, our 1,000-yard season is very good. Yes, I'm not trying to go down on a 1,000-yard season just because I'm talking about Joe Mixon, but it's common now. You see him all the time in the NFL. Every season, there's a 1,000-yard season with most running backs. Most running backs have 1,000-yard seasons. It's a great accomplishment, but it's something that is happening more and more and more and more. It's almost like the whole situation with the home runs, right? If you had 30 home runs, that used to be insane. 40 used to be unreal. Nowadays, you hit 30, it's average. Now, 50 is a big thing. Back then, it used to be 30 was huge, and now it's 30. Now it's 20, 30 is all right. You hit 20, 30 home runs, good. But now it's 50 is the big mark. 50 is the big mark, because you've seen back-to-back years, two players, Judge and then, you saw Alonso hit it, then you saw Judge hit it. You see now every year a player's getting at least 50 home runs or something around there, right? It's pretty crazy to see that home runs now are common. As for back then, you used to have those 1 or 2 home run hitters, and it would be insane when you would see a guy put up 30 home runs. Now in the NFL, you used to have a couple of those guys that used to have 1,000-yard seasons. Now an average at best running back, I'm not just talking about Mixon, I'm just talking about running backs in general, they all get they all get 1,000-yard seasons now. It's like a 1,000-yard season is a common thing now in football in general. So I'm not trying to down on 1,000-yard seasons. I think 1,000-yard seasons are a very good thing. I think they are a very fun thing to watch, especially if you're watching a guy put up about 100 yards, 150 yards a week. It's a lot of fun to see, okay, how many yards can he put up this week, right? It's a lot of fun. But as for Joe Mixon, it's almost like 1,000 yards. It's almost like he's a little overrated. I think Joe Mixon's a little overrated in my opinion. He's a little overrated in my opinion. I don't think that's an outrageous statement to say. I don't think it's outrageous at all. I think he's overrated. I think he's very, very, very just one of those guys that I just don't think you foresee really needing this much money. I think they should. I think the Bengals should have saved this money for somebody else. They could have saved it for, I know I'm talking 3 years down the road from now, but they could have, who knows? They could have very well saved it for Joe Burrow. What if Joe Burrow becomes an absolute stud? And I understand I'm talking 3 years down the road and they could get more money by then. But what I'm saying is this is a lot of money they're giving this dude. They're giving a lot of money for, in my opinion, is a running back, is a good running back. He's nothing spectacular. He's nothing insane. He's not insane. He's not horrible. He's He's all right. This is the second deal we've seen in the past, week, where two players are getting big contracts. And I think if I were the Bengals, I think Joe Mixon's better than Budda Baker. I'm not trying to compare him at position. I'm saying, if I had to choose, one to have on my team, I'd probably take Mixon. I do think Mixon's just I think Mixon's better at his position than Budda Baker is at safety. I think that's just my opinion. So I probably would I gave the Budda Baker deal C. I'll probably give this deal a C plus or a B, just because I think Mixon's better at his position than Budda Baker is. And I'm not trying to compare who's better, Budda Baker or Joe Mixon, because you can't do that. I'm trying to just say who's better at their position. I think Joe Mixon's probably a better running back than Budda Baker is as a safety. I just think that's how it is. I just think Budda Baker is kind of just, I've heard of Budda Baker, but you never heard his name pop up and he's a really good player. And Mixon, you've heard his name pop up. I mean, Mixon's not a horrible running back. He's not that bad. He's average. I think he's average. I think a lot of people think he's top 10 in the league. I think a lot of people have him as a top 10 running back. I don't foresee that. Believe me, I've seen the top 10 running backs list. I think there's a lot of players that are out of the top 10 that are better than him. I think very better than him. And I know there's some players that, you could either fit in the top 10. There's also some players that you can completely leave out of top 10 and you could add Mixon in. But if I were to make a top 10 list, I don't know if Mixon would be in it. He could very well be number 10. But does that mean he get this much money? I don't know. I don't really foresee him. I don't think he is I don't think he's a running back what everybody says he is. I don't think he's all that. I think he's okay. He's pretty good, all right? All right, he's pretty good. Good for him. But I don't think he's worth this much money. And I think the Bengals settled too quickly. For a running back that's at best, and for a guy that I just don't think is all that good. And we'll look at the stats. And believe me, and me calling him bad, I'm not calling him bad. Me calling him you're going to look at the stats and you're going to disagree with me. I know you're going to disagree with me because his stats aren't bad, but they're not the worst. But what I'm trying to say is just from what I see on the field, I know stats don't lie, and I will, this is where my argument has in a little bit of a hole, because his stats are pretty good. His stats could definitely be top 10 stats. What I see on the field, if you really go deep into the stats and compare him to other players, he's not really one of these players that would deserve this amount of money, in my opinion. Joe Mixon, Bengals reportedly agreed to a 4-year, $48 million contract extension. Running back Joe Mixon agreed to a 4-year, $48 million contract extension with the Cincinnati Bengals on Tuesday, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter on NFL Networks and NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. Full details on the Bengals deal for running back Joe Mixon's 4-year, $48 million, $10 million signing bonus, $1.3 million base in 2020, $8 million base in 2021, $8 million in 2022. $9.4 million 2023 club option for $9.6 million 2024, $500K each year in play time, and $200K offseason workout bonus each year. Shortly before the news broke, Mixon dropped the teaser to fans on Twitter. The 24-year-old, a second-round pick in 2017, was due to hit free agency in 2021. Duke Tobin of the Bengals director of player personnel told 700 WLWs Lance McAllister, in May, the team was open to trading. The team was open to discussing a new contract via Pro Football Talks. Josh Alper. Joe's obviously a guy that's shown a lot of ability. He's in a year that he can be extended, and he's a guy that we visited with. We'll go through those discussions and see if there is a fit or a match for his long-term contract with him. Obviously, a guy that is valued quite a bit. The great thing about Joe is he goes about it the right way. He's a type of guy you want to look up to a long-term deal. We'll see if we can find him to get one of those overtime here. Tobin allotted the delicate balance of NFL team attempts to strike when working out extensions with their starting running backs. General managers typically want to keep the player around, but are wary of committing too much money on the basis that their value could quickly diminish in the years ahead. Todd Gurley is the most notable example. He signed a 4-year extension in July 2018 and included $45 million guaranteed. Not even 2 full years later, the Los Angeles Rams released him amid concerns about an arthritic component to his knee. However, that didn't stop the Carolina Panthers from handing Christian McCaffrey a 4-year, $64 million extension that includes almost $38.2 million guaranteed. While he wasn't a position to eclipse McCaffrey record-setting $60 million average annual salary, Mixon's asking price might have gone up based on what the 2019 All-Pro received from the Panthers. The Athletics' Paul Denher Jr. reported in April the Bengals were planning for a potential holdout from Oklahoma product in absence of a long-term deal. Following up on the situation in June, Denher wondered whether the financial ramifications of COVID-19 pandemic left him stuck in an unavailable position. For Mixon and his camp, that will be about understanding his value and figuring out a way to land whatever guaranteed money he can find. If you still enter his thinking, McCaffrey or Elliott is still $50 million per year range is within reason. That will be a non-starter. Half of that is probably more likely starting point. The reality is that the team won't have that type of money to spend it on the most valuable position in the game, especially when his leverage is minimum to non-existent. Though through his first 3 years, Mixon has looked like a capable every down back, but hasn't enjoyed a true breakthrough. He ran for 1,168 yards and 8 touchdowns while catching 43 passes for 296 yards and 1 score in 2018. Rather than building on that, he went backward in 2019, although he eclipsed a 1,000-yard mark again at 1,137. His yards per carry fell from 4.9 to 4.1, and he had 8 fewer receptions despite appearing in 2 more games. Mixon's somewhat underwhelming 2019 could be blamed partially on his supporting cast. A.J. Green missed the entire season, leaving the Bengals without a viable number 1 threat in the passing game, while the offensive line ranked 26th in adjusted line yards per Football Outsiders. Cincinnati selected Alabama offensive tackle Jonah Williams with the number 11 pick in the 2019 draft, only seeing him undergo shoulder surgery before playing a single snap. Now Green is healthy again, and the Bengals forfeited their offense through the draft by adding Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. To some extent, Mixon could end up regretting signing the extension when he did that, even if proven offense helps lift him to a Pro Bowl. I don't even think he's made it to a Pro Bowl. Like I said, I don't think he is worth this money. You read it in the article. He had a down year last year, and that's what I'm saying about 1,000 yards. Players could have a down year and still put up 1,000 yards. That's what I'm saying. Like 1,000 yards now is not that difficult of a mark to hit. It's getting more common, and if you hit 1,000, if for example, if Le'Veon Bell this season would have hit 1,000 yards, I'll be completely excited. I'll be ecstatic. I'd be so happy if Le'Veon Bell would hit 1,000 yards this season, because 1,000 yards is a very good season for a running back. But it's getting more and more common. More and more players are hitting it. I mean, it's just how it is. It's just how sports do. Every sport has it. Back then, there used to not be that many three-pointers. Nowadays, you hit 10 three-pointers in a game, it's like, oh, he hit 10 three-pointers in a game. It's kind of common. You don't see it every day, but you're seeing it a lot more than what you would have saw 5-6 years ago. right? Same thing with the MLB. Home runs. Oh, he hit 30 home runs. That's really good, a couple years ago. But now you hit 30 home runs. It's like, oh, good. He hit 30 home runs. Like, it's common. Same thing with it's I don't even know what else to say. Like NFL too. Like, touchdowns. Like a couple years ago, if you would have thrown 25 touchdowns, it would have been insane. Now you throw 25 touchdowns, it's like, all right, he had a good year. I'm expecting 35. Right? Even now, 35s are good. Like, since Mahomes hit that 50 mark, now 35 is like, okay, good. He hit 35 touchdowns. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, things in sports get common, and 1,000-yard seasons are starting to become one of those things that you're going to see more and more often. Every season, you're going to see more of it. Whether it's 1,100-yard season, whether it's 1,010-yard season, whatever the case may be, whether it's 1,001, whether it's 1,000 right on the dot, you barely hit it, whatever the case may be, you gotta, you just have to just remember that they're getting more and more common as years go on. So Joe Mixon, Bengals reportedly agreed to a 4-year, $48 million contract extension. I'm going to read some of his stats for you, although you kind of just heard some of his stats, but I'm going to read the rest of them. Give you the ranks among the NFL. He's another one, too, I don't like, even in fantasy. Everybody thinks that he's amazing in fantasy, and I just don't like. You look at some of his fantasy numbers, he's nothing special. I mean, he's really nothing special. He's Joe Mixon. I'm not trying to be mean, but I don't think he's all that good. I think he's overrated. I don't think he's a top 10 running back. I don't think he might be the top player in the Bengals, but also you got to look at the roster you're looking at. You can't call Burrow the best player on the Bengals because he hasn't played one single snap in a regular season game. You can't call T. Higgins. You can call Green and Mixon. Can't call Jonah Williams either because look at him, right? So Joe Mixon. All right, so he had 278 attempts last season. That was tied 5th. Yards was 1,137. That's 9th. Touchdowns was tied 26. He had 5. Average was 4.1. That was 33rd. So even there was a little bit of a struggle. And last season it was a down year. Even though he played 2 more games, he had less yards. He had less. His average was less. His touchdowns was less. His long was less. He had less first downs. Right? Everything last season was down. Everything last season went down. And the season before that, everything went up. He had a promising season. In 2018, everything went up. It was 237 attempts, more yards, more average, more touchdowns, better his long, like meaning how many yards he got, like his long, and more first downs. And then even he lessened out the fumbles. He had no fumbles. He is a good running back and not fumbling. He's only had 1 fumble in his career. As for last season, his attempts did go up, but that's what they were saying. It's surprising. His attempts went up and his yards and everything else went down. His attempts did go up, his games went up, but his yards went down, average went down, touchdowns went down, his long went down, his first downs went down. Everything went down last season. It still wasn't a horrible year on paper, but after a down year, you're going to pay a guy all this money? That's almost like saying, let's just say Le'Veon Bell was still on the Steelers, and last season was a down year for him, and now they were going to pay him this year. He wanted his money after this season. If he got 700 yards, they're not going to pay the dude. He had a down year in almost every single stat category. The main stat categories: first down, averages, long, touchdowns, attempts, all that stuff, yards. He went down in all that, and they still gave him the $48 million. Very interesting here. I've said it multiple times. I don't think he's worth it. I don't think he's worth all that money. I know he's still young. He's only 24 years old, and he's still got a long career ahead of him, and you're trying to lock him up. I get it, but I don't think he's anything like a Christian McCaffrey. I don't think he's like anything like a Barkley. I don't think he's a top 10 running back. I mean, you have people making arguments that he's a top 5 running back. I don't foresee that. I don't even see him a top 10. I think there's a lot of running backs out there that we don't really hear of that are better than him. Maybe they're not breaking the amazing 1,000 yards, but they have other stuff too. Even his receiving, they said, went down. So good as receiving. His receptions, down. Targets, down. Yards, down. Averages, up. Touchdowns, up. His long went up. First downs was tied. So 4 out of the 6 I just named there were all down. So there's a point to when he's coming off of a down year, a not a great year, and you're gonna give him all this money. I think it's a little risky. I give it a B. The only reason I give it a B and I gave Buda Baker's a C is because I think I think Mixon's better at his position and Buda Baker is at safety. So I can't give Mixon a C. I don't think Mixon's that bad. I think he's eh. He's eh. I've said it multiple times. I don't think Mixon's horrible. I think Buda Baker's pretty bad. I don't really think Buda Baker's all that. I think he's meh at best in my opinion. I don't really think Buda Baker, from what I've seen on the field, from what I see in stats, looking at numbers, all that, I don't think he's all that great to get all that money. Same thing with Mixon. I think Mixon's better at the running back position. If you get what I'm saying, I'm not trying to compare them two. I think Joe Mixon's better at his position than Buda Baker is at safety. I just think that's how it is. And I know Mixon hasn't made a Pro Bowl and Buda Baker has, but I think this is a C plus B deal. I don't think this is anything special. I think they should have held off and maybe saved their money for something else. Even with free agency coming up. Like even with that, like your team's not that great. You're going to need to live off of free agency. Now you give this player a ton of money. Interesting. So it's just something that's interesting. And let's just look at his kind of career highlights and stuff. His career highlights, he hasn't made a Pro Bowl. He hasn't made an All-Pro. He's not even second-team All-Pro. He didn't make PFW All-Rookie team. He didn't make any of that. He's a first-team All-Big 12, which was in college, and USA Today High School All-American, which was back in 2013. We're talking 7 years ago, and we're talking 4 years ago. So, this is a long time ago. He hasn't done much, and I don't think he's worth all this money, and we'll see if he is. We'll see if he is, depending on how, this season goes. I think this season will be a big teller. If he has a down year this year again, I don't know why in the world he gave him the money. But I still wouldn't agree with you giving all this money. So that's what I got for the the Joe Mixon Bengals. Coming up next, we have the Yankees-Rays situation. So okay, so last night got interesting between the Yankees and the Rays game, and I wanted to give myself some time to talk about it because I didn't want to talk about it in the final topic because it's almost to the end of the podcast, and I just didn't really want to talk about it. I want to have it his own segment. So the Yankees and the Rays got into a little bit of a scrum yesterday. A interesting scrum, a end of the game, final out scrum with the Yankees and the Rays. Now, this is understandable, and I actually don't mind that this happens. I don't mind. It's not that I love to see this happen. I'm just saying that, this really is how much these two teams hate each other. Everybody talks about it, and you haven't really seen it just yet, but I think this is a true teller of how these two teams really hate each other. These two teams dislike each other a lot. They don't like each other. Obviously that's just kind of something that is just kind of is what it is. It is what it is, I guess, with the whole Yankees-Rays situation. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion. I know a lot of people have, this is kind of an interesting topic to talk about because I know a lot of people have their side and a lot of people have this side. I'm just going to kind of give it a rundown in case if you didn't see the game or you don't quite know what happened. So, it was 2 outs in the the top of the ninth. Sorry, the Yankees were home. It was a 2 outs at the top of the ninth. The Yankees were winning 5-3. Chapman came in to close. He had 2 outs already. Kind of just pitching. Now, and what I wanted to make clear is there was the first 2 batters he was a little wild with. And you can kind of see if you go back with the replay, it was a little wild with the first 2 batters. Not like wild where it was at their head, not wild where it was inside. It was just he wasn't really finding quite the zone. That's why he only finished with 1 strikeout, and the others were kind of hits and stuff, just because he wasn't able to find his zone. But when they found his zone, they were able to make contact. But, he had a 1-2-3 inning. We love to see that. Chapman, he got the save. That's good. But what I'm trying to say here is that he was a little wild. Now, the first pitch or whatever of Brosseau's at bat, or a pitch in Brosseau's at bat, the Tampa Bay Rays batter is Brosseau. Catcher was Kyle Higashioka, and the pitcher was Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman throws a 101-mile-an-hour fastball right at his head. Now, is it intentional? Is it not? Now, I've always tried to do this. I try to look at both sides, right? I've always done this. I always try to do it because I'm a Yankees fan too, so I'm going to want to look at the Yankees side of things as well, but I'm also going to want to look at the Rays side, right? Because we hate the Rays. I dislike the Rays. The Yankees and the Rays seem like they have a little bit of a bad blood going on here, so things are getting interesting involving that. But what I'm trying to say here is that involving the Yankees Rays here, I don't really think. Now, you could look at both sides. You could say, the Yankees have gone thrown at in past years, and in this season by the Rays, they've gone thrown at a ton of times. It hopping in, getting hit by the head neck area, right? They have gone to. When they were last time they were at the Rays, they did. Now, what kind of surprises me is they've already played 3 games since. They've played 5 games since that. Those throw to the head. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to throw at them on that 6th game. Interesting. So, here's my deal. I personally do not think Aroldis Chapman threw at him intentionally. Now, that could very well change. That he could have thrown at him intentionally. We don't know. You have to ask Chapman. Here's the deal. I'm always going to be on the side of, if a player throws at somebody's head or neck area, that is not allowed. Even if you're on the Yankees and if Chapman did it intentional, I'm not really okay with that, because that's not really good baseball. That's scary and dangerous. You could hurt a person badly if that would have hit him in the helmet. Now, hit him anywhere near the head neck area, anywhere in the body, especially the head neck area, but anywhere in the body, if you get hit with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, it's gonna work. It's gonna hurt. Now, it's going to probably be more dangerous near the head and neck area as if it would be down by the ankle or something like that. But either way, it's a 101-mile-an-hour fastball piece of people. We're not talking about no 50-mile-an-hour off-speed pitch that somebody leaned into, right? We're talking about a 101-mile-an-hour fastball. That's what we're talking about here. So he threw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball toward the head of Rays batter Michael Brosseau. And they don't have any history to them, anything like that, and that's the big thing here. I always try to look at the history. Okay, do they have history? Does these two guys have history? Does these two players have history? Has he hit him and then they hit him or whatever? I've always tried to look at that. Sometimes they do, but I don't think Chapman and them really have history. I've never known really Brosseau. Brosseau's pretty young, and Chapman's been in the league for a pretty long time, so I don't foresee them really having that much history, as well as Chapman hasn't even really pitched against the Rays this season. I think his first performance was against the Red Sox, I'm pretty sure, and he's pitched like 1 or 2 games. Chapman hasn't pitched much this season, so it's not like it's happened this year. But I don't think this was intentional. Why I don't think it was intentional is because I'm going to get into the baseball aspect of this. Is because I don't think this was intentional because of I don't think this was intentional because if he throws at him, if Chapman throws at Brosseau and he hits him, let's just say it hits him, okay? That puts up the tying run at the plate. I do not think that would have been a great idea. Putting up the tying run at the plate with a runner on first, 2 outs, you were 1 out away from finishing the game, especially against the Tampa Bay Rays. You don't want to purposely let up a game like that. That's why I don't think it was intentional. Because then the tying run would have been up at the plate, and don't even want to know what could have happened next. Right? Now, sure, if he walks him and the guy hits the ball, okay, so what? This is another thing about the MLB too, people. And I'm going to read a quick article on this as well. If you hit somebody in the MLB, it's almost like there's there's something wrong with you. It's almost like you can't hit, in the MLB, you can't hit somebody. You can't. You just can't hit somebody. It's illegal. It's almost illegal. You hit somebody in the MLB, even the Rays manager, who I have a big problem with after this comments last night. I'll read them in a second. I have a big problem with him after what he said last night, gearing it towards the Yankees. They hit a guy, and Tanaka hit, I'm pretty sure, Wendell in the earlier innings. Okay, he hit him. You can make mistakes, people. It's almost like they expect these MLB players to be automatic. MLB players are going to hit some players. I mean, it is what it is. It's baseball. You're going to make mistakes. You can't expect to throw it right down the middle every single time, 100 miles an hour, straight down Broadway. Can't expect your changeup, your slider, your curveball, your off speed, whatever you're throwing, to break every single time. You make mistakes. So when somebody throws at somebody, you can't all of a sudden say, "Oh, intentional." How is it intentional? You don't know if it's intentional. Who knows? It could have been 6th inning, 1 out, 2-1 count, and he accidentally hit him. Oh, that's really intentional. You gotta benches clear. Benches got to clear for that. I think why this really heated, and that's another thing too. Chapman ended up striking him out. He threw out his head. The next 3 pitches right down the middle. It's not like he threw out his head, threw inside, threw low and inside, threw high and inside again, walked him. You know? It's almost like that crazy moment a couple years ago in the World Series when Noah Syndergaard threw behind the dude's back. Now, he did that intentional because they had history. He threw behind his back due to the Chase Utley slide into Ruben Tejada, broke his leg, if you know what I'm talking about. I think it was actually against the Dodgers, or whatever. He threw behind his back. They threw him out that pitch. They didn't even give him a warning. They threw him out. It was one of the first things, I think it was one of his first pitches of the game, they threw him out. They should have issued a warning. They went on and played the game. They threw him out. I don't quite know why they completely did that, but you get what I'm saying. So, last night got interesting. Usually when the game's done, I go to the phone, look at all the numbers, review them, get ready for tomorrow's podcast. I got a little bit more, 5 minutes more of baseball as the bench is cleared. And things got interesting. No fights, nothing major, but, there was just kind of a little bit of the umpires. I have to give credit to the umpires. They got on it immediately. I think it was also because they were kind of walking off the field. It was kind of weird because they were walking off the field. Chapman gave a little stare down to Brasso. Brasso was walking off. Then all of a sudden things got a little heated. Then the umpires, it was actually lucky time, and the umpires started running in. Not because the benches were clean. They were just running in to head to the locker room and get out of there because the game was over. They separated them immediately. They did not let them come anywhere close to them. The only 2 players I saw was Tyler Wade, and I'm pretty sure one of the bench coaches, Tyler Wade, and one of the bench coaches on the Yankees went over there and kind of broke it up. Tyler Wade wasn't shoving or pushing or punching or kicking or whatever. He was kind of just over there just breaking it up, kind of just being in the middle of it all. It wasn't major. It wasn't like everybody was face to face. The Yankees were kind of down the third base line and the Rays were kind of right outside of their dugout. So it wasn't really bad positioning there. But the umpires, I have to give a good job to them. They actually were on it very quickly. They broke it up, 4 of them. They were all on it, broke it up, and they didn't have any problems. There wasn't no issues with the Yankees possibly really erupting, because that is not what you want in any baseball game, especially in a season like this. You don't want it to be, and that's what the MLB has said, you don't want bench clears, because that's not social distancing. You don't want players to be on top of each other. So, it is what it is. But now, this is where baseball gets bad. This is where sports gets bad. This is where you take it to a next level, and this is what the Rays manager did. So I have an issue with Kevin Cash right now, because Rays Kevin Cash issues apparent threat after Yankees Aroldis Chapman buzzes batter. I thought he said buzzer beater. I was like, how is there a buzzer beater in baseball? He's threatening the New York Yankees right now, Kevin Cash. And I'm a Yankees fan, so I'm going to back up the Yankees here. I am very angry that he's threatening the Yankees. There's no place in sports, in baseball, for you to be saying, there's no need. There's no need for you to do that. It was one play, it's over with. Focus on the next game. So the New York Yankees were able to close the door on the Tampa Bay Rays on Tuesday night, finishing a 5-3 victory with Aroldis Chapman in the 9th inning. Chapman's appearance in the final frame, however, came with some fireworks. The flamethrower threw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. I've heard 101, 99, whatever. Toward the head of the Rays batter Michael Brasso during their matchup. After Brasso struck out, he walked back to the dugout and had some choice words for the Yankees players. He prompted both benches to be cleared, though no fight broke out. Rays manager issued an apparent threat to the Yankees after the game. Somebody's got to be accountable, Cash said. And the last thing I'll say is on this, I got a whole stable full of guys that throw 98, period. So he's threatening guys that, he throws 98. throws 98, and they're going to be throwing at the Yankees. That's what he's pretty much saying. So you're not supposed to say that. It's baseball. It's stupid. It's outrageous. And, Kevin Cash looks like an idiot on this one. He looks stupid on this one. That's all I'm going to say. The heart was turned up between American League East rivals. Masahiro Tanaka hit Joey Wendell with a fastball in the first inning. Both Cash and Wendell believed it was intentional. How is it intentional? He hit him. Gosh. As far as if I was there intent behind Chapman's delivery, I'm not really sure, but pretty frustrating, honestly, bro. So, said it was not what you want to see coming in off the bench, especially when we pretty much let everything go after Joey took the message for us and we and did it like a man. Kind of just carried it on with the day. But if there is any intent behind it and they want to send another message, I guess they made their point. Yankees manager Aaron Boone and infielder DJ Mayhew both were taken aback by Cash remarks. That's a pretty scary comment, Boone said. I don't think that's right at all, but I'm not going to get into it right now. Exactly, it is scary. So if the Yankees, Chapman throws at him. Okay, that doesn't mean the next day you're so scared. You're so scared. How dare you throw at our players? So now you're going to throw at the Yankees players. We've been seeing this for years in baseball, but you don't threaten the New York Yankees. Kevin Cash should get some sort of punishment for that. And I'm interested to see. If the Yankees' first batter today comes up and he gets hit, there's a problem. You do not threaten an MLB team like that. Oh, I got a whole stable of guys that can throw 98. Oh, yeah. Just because you lost, you're this angry. You got a whole stable of guys that can throw 98. Woohoo, great for you. It's bad teaching, bad coaching, all that bad stuff. Everything like that. Cash should not focus on the Yankees, and he should stay on his own team, stay on his own Rays team. He should just focus on the Rays, because that's the team he's coaching. He ain't coaching the Yankees. Oh, bad teaching, bad coaching, bad this, bad that. Meanwhile, earlier on in the season, you had 3 of your guys throw right at other players' heads. Did you say anything there? No, you didn't. Cash looks like a complete bad manager, and it's a dumb comment to make, and it's stupid. It's stupid. Dumb comments by Kevin Cash. Dumb comments. And I hope the Yankees crush the Rays tonight, so Kevin Cash can be quiet and head back to Tampa. LeMahieu added the comments from their manager. Those made the rounds pretty quickly in our clubhouse. Obviously, that's a pretty serious threat. It sounds like they're going to try and throw at us tomorrow. We'll be ready. The Yanks are 2-7 against the Rays this year and trail the AL East by 3.5 games. The Associated Press contributed to this report. Not necessary for Cash to make all those remarks. It really isn't. I don't think it was really necessary for him. It's threatening. It's threatening, and it's not. It's not safe, because now the Yankees. So now all of a sudden the Yankees are in a bad position tonight, because now the Rays are going to be throwing out the Yankees. It seems like, and it is what it is, I guess. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. I just never expected. Cash is not a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad dude. He's been a pretty successful manager with the Rays. He completely flipped that team around. But what I'm trying to say is there's no need to make those comments. Those are dumb comments. And I'm getting a little fired up here, because those are not necessary comments. You're threatening a baseball team. I get it. Chapman threw it at his head. We don't know if it's intentional. Only Chapman knows. But I just don't really believe that the Yankees here are just. I think all of a sudden now the Yankees are in threat today's game. The Yankees are in threat, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these Yankees come out of this game with injuries, because they're going to get thrown at. I don't know if it's going to be once, twice, or 3 times. They're going to get thrown at. There probably will be ejections today. And I think Boone handled it very well yesterday. Because I'm iffy with Boone. I think Boone makes some good decisions. I think Boone says some good things, some bad things. I'm iffy with Boone. Never been a huge Boone. I'm not a huge Boone fan. Don't hate him. Don't love him. I'm about in the middle with him. I think some of his decision making isn't great. I think some of his lineup making kind of decisions with different players. I don't like how he's handled the Gary Sanchez situation, but there's different things. I also like how Boone does. Boone's very good locker room management, all that good stuff. I also like some of the things he responds to. He's a very humble dude. When they said that what Cash was saying, he said pretty scary comments. Kind of went on with it. it is scary. Those are dumb comments. Those are not nice comments to say. And I understand it's baseball, but those comments have no place in baseball. Those comments have no place in baseball. This isn't wrestling. Also, he's almost setting the Yankees up to come in and get hit. He's almost saying the Yankees are going to get hit. So tomorrow if the Rays hit the Yankees, it's intentional. So the Rays should automatically get a warning because it's coming. I wouldn't be surprised first pitch of the game behind the player's back or up and in. So LeMahieu, probably the leadoff. He better be ready. It stinks that we got to say that, but that seems the approach the Rays are taking. So, anyway, even right here, CBS Sports. Right now I'm doing pod. Rays, Kevin Cash out of line. Threatens. He's threatening a baseball team. He is threatening a team. He's threatening to pretty much throw out players, possibly injure them. Possibly, you're going to throw out the head and neck area, that could be end of the career. You're threatening them. Oh, I got a whole stable of guys that throw 98. Great. Good for you. Focus on your own team now. Focus on your own team. You're the head coach of the Tampa Bay Rays. You're not the head coach of the New York Yankees, is what I'm trying to get from this. So, he should just pay attention to his own team and stop focusing on the Yankees. Aaron Boone's the head coach of the Yankees. You're the head coach of the Rays. And he's all fired up about, it was 2 outs in the 9th inning. Oh, Joey Wendell got hit in the first inning. That was intentional. So now if a bell player gets hit, all of a sudden it's intentional. Outrageous statements by him. Outrageous. Dumb comments, scary comments. And all of a sudden now, the Yankees are threatening. The Yankees are threatened. And this stinks for DJ LeMahieu because he's got to lead off. And you got to be careful with this one. You've got to be careful. This is all of a sudden turned into a moment where you have to be careful. There could be injuries that come out of this game. Bad injuries too. Scary injuries. So now all of a sudden you're threatening every Yankees player. You're threatening some of these guys' careers. If one of these guys, 98-mile-an-hour fastball, hits him in the head, all of a sudden you could be threatening his career. That's what Kevin Cash is doing right now. Not good. Not good at all. So now we move into the Yankees' actual game last night. We did pick up the win, which is great. Yankees won 5-3 against the Rays. We had 5 runs, 9 hits, no errors. Rays had 3 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error. Yankees actually, Tanaka pitched pretty well. Pitched very well yesterday. LeMahieu had 2 home runs, really helped us propel us to that win. He had the leadoff home run in this. He had first 2 at-bats were home runs. Helped us a lot. Another multi-hit game for LeMahieu. He's batting hot, amazing player. I went 2 for 4, 2 runs scored, 2 RBIs. Voit went 2 for 4, the runs scored. He's hot still. I mean, he's just unbelievable, playing so well this season. Voit had a home run yesterday, or home run 2 days ago. 2 nice hits yesterday. Voigt's on fire. Very exciting to see him really come around on the ball. Hicks went 1 for 4. Frazier went 1 for 4. The runs scored. Gardner went 0 for 0. He came in late, I guess. Urshela went 2 for 4. The run scored and 2 RBIs. He had that double that then was an inside the park home run. Good to see Urshela come around on the ball. He's had some moments this season where he showed flashes and some moments this season where he's shown some rustiness, but Urshela seems like he's coming around the ball. He had a 2-hit night. Great night for Urshela. Had a big hit there that put them up, 5-1, I think. So that was good. Then, or 5-2, whatever. Talkman 1 for 3. Sanchez 0 for 3. Higashioka 0 for 3. Wade 0 for 3. Tanaka pitched 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Loizaga 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 earned, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Britton 1 inning, no hits, no earned, no walks, 1 strikeout. Chapman 1 inning, no hits, no earned, no walks, 1 strikeout. Britton came off the DL from the hamstring, looked very good, and it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see the Yankees finally beat the Tampa Bay Rays. I say we give them another win tonight. The Rays have Charlie Morton on the mound, fresh off the IL. He might be a little rusty. They have Monty on the mound, who's probably our second trustworthy pitcher. We have Monty on the mound. Exciting to see that. Monty's been pitching great this season, so I have Monty having a good game, and I have the Yankees getting the win. A lot of momentum coming out of last night's game. Tempers flaring. I said the Yankees come out firing. And hey, Yankees might get some free base runners tonight. Who knows? Because they're going to get drilled, it seems like. If those wild, crazy, dumb comments are true. So the Yankees got the win 5-3. They moved to 20-14 on the season. They play tonight, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good for the Yankees. Next up, the Mets last night. I turned to the Mets game last night. After the Yankees game was done and over and all the brawls were done, I turned over to the Mets game, watched the Mets lose 9-5. They lost 9-5 against the Orioles. They played today, 4:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Mets had 5 runs, 11 hits, no errors. Orioles 9 runs, 15 hits, no errors. The Mets went. Brandon Nimmo went 2 for 4. Ramos 0 for 1. Conforto 1 for 5. Dom Smith 0 for 4. Cano 2 for 4 with 2 runs and an RBI. McNeil 3 for 4 with a run scored. Alonso 0 for 3 with an RBI. Guillermo went 2 for 4 with a run scored and an RBI. Jimenez 1 for 4 with a run scored, 2 RBIs. Sanchez 0 for 2 with a walk, and J.D. Davis 0 for 1. Gerardo went 4 innings, 9 hits, 5 earned, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Kilme went 3 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Hughes went 1 inning, 1 hit, no earned, no walks, 1 strikeout. Mets get to take the loss there. They moved to 15-21 on season. I say they lose today. The Orioles will beat the Mets again, I think. The Islanders got into an interesting game yesterday. The Islanders lost in overtime to the Philadelphia Flyers. They lost in overtime, 4-3. It was down 3. They were down 3-1 in the third period with 2 minutes left. They scored 2 goals in 2 minutes, and they ended up losing. They ended up still losing though, 4-3. In overtime, the Flyers ended up scoring a goal. So the Islanders now, are up 3-2 in the series. So next game's a pretty important game. That game looks like. That game is tomorrow. So tomorrow's game will be played. That's tomorrow's game at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll preview that game then. So Yankees tempers flaring. Joe Mixon signs a deal. Mets lose. Islanders lose. Yankees play tonight. They all play tonight except the Islanders play tomorrow. Yankees going to be an interesting game. It's going to be an interesting game. And if you don't watch many baseball games, tune into this one tonight. 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because it's going to get interesting. And crazy, outrageous, dumb comments could really, really hurt your baseball team, and that's what they might be doing. And the Yankees kind of said it. They're scary. They're not. No, you don't say that. That's very unprofessional to say as a manager. I also know the adrenaline was pumping probably at that time in that interview because they take you right off the field to do your interview as a head coach. Players got to shower up and do stuff, but they take you right off the field and you get an interview. So the adrenaline still could have been pumping from that, so maybe some of those comments he said were kind of just because he was just really fired up. But who knows? Should be interesting. This is, I guess, the greatness of a rivalry, though. You see some of these crazy things happen. This is turning into a rivalry. This is turning into a little bit of a rivalry here, this Yankees-Rays stuff. So, anyway, with all that being said, that is the end of the podcast for today. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.